talked with a gentleman who owns a property management company and does fix and flips for himself as well as fix and flips for other. They're very successful. I mean, they do about 440,000 a year. He's got I had him fill out the FPN and I did the survey. But he came back DQ because he does have a bankruptcy, but it's 9 years old. And I'm
Okay.
looking at his credit profile and it's like, he maybe has maybe four accounts that have some late payments, like older late payments. I didn't get a chance to really dive into it, but you know, I I don't want to keep sending, reconsiderations, but I just felt like this guy was good, I was kind of, I don't know,
Okay. Okay.
deflated a little bit that I got that, but is
So, so let me try to address it a little bit, or at least talk about it from a high level perspective, and then you can kind of, follow up with a question if you have one. So, what we've done in the last, I don't know, 3 months or so, is we've expanded from one originally and then two offers. We got about 35 offers in FPN, meaning, qualifying offers, and you guys know them as platinums and golds and silvers and LC 2020s and things like that. There's about 35 of them in total, and they kind of ebb and flow, and they've never been up to 40, and I don't think they've dipped below 30, but they kind of ebb and flow as we kind of watch the data behind the scenes. And so we've gone from one to two, and now we're up to five, actually six. We now have six offers that allow for a bankruptcy. Now I'm looking on my other screen, Nancy, at the metrics. We've got three of those six bankruptcy offers that require them to be 7 years out of a bankruptcy. We've got one that requires them to be 2 years out of bankruptcy, and then we've got two that require them to be 1 year out of a bankruptcy. Now, with that being said, right, because your client sounds like he'd pass all those hurdles, right? You've now got 26 other items that also are kind of hurdles that have to be cleared. And some of them are kind of, NA type of hurdles, meaning, I don't see any of my BK offers. I don't see any of those six BK offers where they are required to have no 30-day late payments, for example, right? None of them. So those are kind of NAs. But, if I look across the board, every one of them except one requires no short sales, which we don't see a lot of short sales nowadays like we did in 2009 to 11, right? I see, no foreclosures for five of the six, right? So in other words, no foreclosures in the last 7 years, 8 years, whatever. Another metric. I see that they must have at least one open trade line with at least a $500 limit for five of the six trade lines. So that means, for example, with your prospect, if he or she doesn't have a open revolving credit line, credit card, call it, with at least a $500 credit limit, then there's only one of those six BK offers that would allow for that, right? Now, if, for example, remember, I'm just playing ifs and then, if then statements here. If they have two credit cards with $300 and $400 credit limits, then the only one offer they could possibly qualify for would require them to have a 640 score and a $100,000 household income. So there's multiple variables that cause someone with a bankruptcy to either pass those automated filters or to be a DQ, right? So multiple factors for all six of those offers. And in this case, apparently he didn't pass any of those hurdles for one reason or another. Obviously, I didn't mention all of them. There's, age of file, there's FICO score, there's number of inquiries, all of those metrics, right? And it's different for all six of the offers, and they're all designed to kind of capture some of our BK clients in a net, and the nets for us are kind of called scorecards, right? They put them on a scorecard, kind of like your FICO score. Well, being young like you, Nancy, you probably fall on a different scorecard than me because I'm an old guy, right? And if Jimmy were on, it'd be even more fun because Jimmy's really, oh, never mind. He's on, never mind. I didn't say he's really old, right? But I mean, the point is is everybody kind of falls on a different scorecard. We capture them in a net. That net puts them on a scorecard, and then they're graded a little differently because they're 21 years old and have a car loan and a mortgage and a credit card versus someone who's 73 and has all the above and has had credit for a long time. Little different kind of way of grading them. And so in your case, if none of those nets caught him, I think you said it was a guy, then if the deal makes sense, then we love reconsideration requests. Tell us why it makes sense, put it in that format. And, again, we've gone from 2 offers to 6, so there's more, but maybe we can eventually have 7 or 8 or 9 of them that are BKs. And here's what happens behind the scenes, Nancy. Then when that person becomes a client, let's say, you do the reconsideration, becomes a client, then when he goes to funding, we measure his success. And if there's one guy that, was a DQ and was successful, it probably doesn't move the needle around here. But all of a sudden, if we have 3 and 4, and then 6 and 8, and then 10 and 12, now all of a sudden we're going to create a new offer because there were 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 guys like that who didn't get caught in one of our nets, and they all have some similar things. I don't know what it is, right? Maybe they're all guys that had a bankruptcy and they just don't have a new revolving trade line, and the one offer we have is too restrictive. Well, boom, now we learn from that because they had success. They didn't get caught in one of our nets. We were missing it with this metric or that metric, and now it allows us to expand and, in my opinion, improve the algorithm at the top of the funnel that is kind of the net catcher that right now is approving, again, depending on the lead source, it's approving between 80 and 85% of people at the top of the funnel. And maybe at some point we can make it 86 or 87%. I don't think we're ever going to get to 95, but that's where we would love your reconsideration request. So my question is, does that in any way help answer your question a little bit? Or
I think what I need to do is go back to, because I haven't had a chance to really dig into his the actual accounts that he has, but it seemed like he
Okay.
paid a lot of stuff on time. He had the BK, but where my other thought is that we're not on the credit repair business. What I'm afraid to do is ask for reconsideration. Then all of a sudden, the credit restoration group can't get some of this stuff cleaned up on his personal credit, and then we never get him. How can we tell that when we're not in that
yeah, you don't have to worry about that because our credit repair partners have been very clear with us on the things they can and can't remove. So that would not be like, for example, if all of the derogatories were student loan derogatories, and then the other derogatories that were there are recent mortgage lates, we're going to know those are pretty difficult items to remove, even though we don't do the work. Our credit repair partners have told us that. So therefore, that deal would be harder to get overturned during reconsideration, versus some other items that are probably quite a bit more common for us to see. And so therefore, we take that into consideration when we either grant or maybe don't grant the reconsideration request.
Okay.